Morning, Casey.
Morning, Nicholas.
Formal. Um, it's all right. No, it's okay. No, I tell you, it's there's so much been going on. I mean, we've been talking with clients, and the amount of calls we get and everything else. But the big thing about this temperature thing, I mean, I get furious. I won't say I get upset, but I get furious when we see some of the things that are going on. Have you got your temperature gun there? Okay. How good are they?
It depends on if it's right out the box with fresh, brand new batteries, or if it's 15 or 20 measures into it, because I can tell the temperature's varying as you go with it. So right out the box, brand new batteries, I'd say it's pretty close. But if you're not changing the batteries uh, almost daily, then the quality of the read goes down, substantially.
The reason they're not consistent is they're not comparing the humidity and the temperature of where they're at. Or, as I've mentioned before, somebody who's wearing a hat and they've got this tight band around their head, the reading is going to be diabolically low because it's been absorbing the heat of the body. But really, skin temperature is not what we need. We know that that is not a genuine temperature. And that's why back in March, when we saw the differences, we decided to bring a new camera out. And, the canthus, that's the tear duct, is the only external area of the body that is giving the core internal temperature. And I think that's pretty cool. But again, we're not going up to the eye. We're able to do it 3-6 feet away and make sure. I mean, that's a radical difference, isn't it? Let's talk about the operator. Let's talk about the person that's now got a very vital job, as they are your frontline protection of knowing the temperature of people that are coming in. Your two daughters go to a school, and you've looked at how they're doing it there, and how they performing. Are they doing it right, or are they doing it wrong?
I think sometimes they get it right, but a lot of it is just so much out of their hands. I mean, you're checking in hundreds of kids. You're trying to get them there as fast as possible. They're hopping out of cars, and all you're doing with a gun, and let's assume that the gun is fully charged and reading a right temperature. All you're doing is taking a skin temperature. Well, they're getting out of what kind of car they're getting out of. For example, perfect case. My wife took some kids to practice not long ago, and one of the kids was controlling the rear air conditioner of the car, accidentally turned it on heater instead of AC, so they got hot air blowing on them. But when they get out at practice, they scan the temperature, and two of them's got a fever. They don't have a fever. Their forehead's hot because they were sitting by a heater in the car with it. So, these things, yes, the atmosphere, what it is outside, where the kids are coming from, and is the operator, do they have it properly up against the head, or are they out here, are they way over here? All of that plays a big role in what kind of temperature you get.
Yeah, and we had one the other day where a guy was wearing a hat, took his hat off, and if you hit the band of where the headband had been, there was nearly a 3 degree. It showed a 3 degree change, which is ridiculous. But we know there's a nurse practitioner working in Tennessee. She complains. She says, I'm being paid $52 an hour, and I've got to stand here and take people's temperature. I'm standing right by the air conditioning unit, and these guns, every time during the day, sometimes it shows 80 degrees, so that person's been dead for 4 days, and then it shows 150 degrees, which they've boiled their brains. So there is no consistency because the humidity and the temperature, they're not taking that into account with the gun. And again, distance. It depends on instructions. Every instruction is different. I think the one you've got, it says within an inch of the forehead. Is that right on yours?
Yeah, and you can clearly see, if you go from 1 inch to, 3 inches, it's, several degrees difference in temperature with it. So, if you're not exactly where it's supposed to be, and again, these things are made for, single use cases at home where you got time to sit there and do it. When you're mass checking people, kids are moving around, teachers are moving around. You can look and you can tell that there's no way that they got an accurate reading on what they just did.
That's true. And of course, when we started to develop in March and realized there was a market and a necessary market to protect the front door and the back door, that's an example, by the way. Back door, Home Depot, they make all of their employees take their temperature before they come to work and fill in a form that they're okay, and then they come in. As of the beginning of this week, they have put a $200 device on the wall that as they walk in the back door, they've got to stand there and look at it again. It doesn't work because there's no comparison whatsoever. There's no reference point. But then I put it to the manager there. I said, so you're checking all your employees. So you've got 60 employees and you've checked them and there they are in the store. What about the front door? What about the people that are walking in? You don't know their temperature at all. You've got no earthly idea. And you, although you say wear a mask, what type of mask are they wearing? When was the last time they washed it? You know, when was it clean? I mean, people just are not taking this as serious as they should. So as you know, we'll let everyone know that we don't do anything with skin temperature. We have a thermal radiometric camera that literally from 6 feet, 3 feet, as people are walking in, it's taking their temperature. And also it's seeing in the background a thing called black body, which is a reference point. So it knows the humidity and the temperature. And when they walk in, they're being double checked. Nobody's got to stand there and do it. And an alarm will go off if they are over, if their temperature's up. And plus the fact you can have somebody standing there with a smartphone or a tablet because they're seeing exactly what the camera is seeing. And it's looking at the canthus of the eye, that's the tear duct, which is the only place externally that will show the internal core temperature of your body. As I joke, and I know this, that the only other way we could really do that is to cut your chest open and take a look at the blood flow through your heart, or we can get a glass thermometer and you can drop your pants. I mean, I don't think that's going to work. But you know, you've got a system, I've got a system, and once it's set up, it can run 24/7 without any issues at all.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to what your goal is. If your goal is to truly measure accurate temperature and on a significant number of people coming in and out of a facility, you have to understand the technology to use it. And the problem is, which happens every single time, is that there's so many fraudsters out there that are, basically screwing people, and people just don't know any better. It's not their fault. You sit there and you talk to people and you ask them and you start talking about these cameras and the thermal measuring of temperature, and you ask them, hey, tell me what black body is. No one has a clue. They have no understanding. They just know, hey, someone puts a device in front of me. Oh, it reads my temperature. I trust that it works. I don't know any better. And it doesn't. It's really heartbreaking when you see what some of these businesses and government agencies, I know we're going to talk about a school in a second, what they're going through, because people are just, mass producing these things out of, a Far East country, that people are buying them, putting them up, and we know they're not right on it, but, people just don't know any better.
And a pure case, several months ago, one guy thought he could sell a lot of these devices. So he ordered $100,000 worth of digital temperature guns. They arrived. He pulled them out the box, 97.3. And he went, cool, that's pretty good. So he now went and looked at his other staff, 97.3. Well, you can't do that. You start going through and everybody's the same temperature. It doesn't work that way. Age has got something to do with it. We're all different. Well, when they got down to it, they found there was a chip inside the device that it wasn't reading the temperature at all. As soon as you pulled the trigger, 97.3, up it came. And of course, could he get his money back? No. And these Chinese devices You know, there's a lot of scam artists, and believe it or not, there's a lot of scam artists in the United States. And you just mentioned about a school. There's a company out of Alabama that sold $1 million worth of cameras that are Chinese from a company that is banned in the United States under our government. And they spent $1 million. A complete school system bought many cameras, $1 million. And they were told that their system was so perfect that as you had 30 abreast coming in, it took everybody's temperature. No, it doesn't. It doesn't work. And plus the fact it is so archaic in so much that they will tell you it's got a black body. Yes, it's got a black body, but unfortunately the black body is a set black body at the factory. It is not actually every second checking the air, humidity and temperature. So the school has now found out that the camera is banned. That's one thing, and they've given them $1 million to China, but also it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And this local security company are now on the line because people are saying, you better pay them back because you screwed up. So what has it done? And you know my favorite words, duty of care. If you don't check something out and you've got transparency and you negate your duty of care, then there's a massive issue.
Yeah, and look, this goes back to the argument we kind of had yesterday or made yesterday, is that, you know, when it comes to technology and, you know, most companies, most businesses, most government agencies, it's impossible to learn and know everything about it. You know, so what we always tell people is that, you know, before you buy something, do what we call an on-site pilot test. Set it up in your environment and with your situations that are going on, and make sure it does what it says it can do. One of the famous ways that these companies do things is they record these marketing videos of showing the product working, and then it's all fake, or it's set up in a very controlled environment to get the desired results, and then it gets to the client's office and set up, and they realize, wait a minute, this doesn't do what it said it was going to do. Money's already spent, and now you're running around in circles with the company, and depending on where it's coming from, a lot of times you're screwed and you can't get anything back, you know, from it. So especially when it comes to these temperatures solutions, if you are worried about, okay, let me do everything I can to meet my duty of care and actually show that I have accurate temperatures and protect my people, then you have to go with a system that someone can set up in your location and show, hey, this is working. They can prove it, they can show it, they can test it, where there's no doubt in your mind that, yes, this works. And it's by reputable people that have a track record of doing it. And I would strongly suggest that it's from a country or made in a country that's not banned by the federal government.
Well, as you know, we designed and manufactured not only in the UK, but here in the United States. We don't use anything that is purchased outside of the country. And by the way, we are totally FDA compliant. There's a whole rule book on thermal cameras and what has to happen. For instance, straight away, if that organization in Alabama had read up on what the FDA says, you have to have a single line of people going through, reading one at a time, because the system doesn't work the other way. And you've got to make sure that it works that way. And plus the fact you must have black body. So all of these people that are spending 200 or one we found the other day, a system that you saw was just under $2,000. It's got no reference point whatsoever. And that is a problem. You've got to have that reference point, because what are you doing? You are letting the fox in the hen house. And it's not just COVID-19. You know that we're going to have issues with influenza. You know we're going to have issues with other viruses, from meningitis to chickenpox to whooping cough, because kids have not been vaccinated. They're saying that 70% of children today have not been vaccinated this year to get them into the system. And that's going to be an issue, because, Casey, you know, you've got children. What do your kids do? They pass it between themselves. They pass it to you, the parents. And if you were going into the office, you're taking it back to your co-workers.
Yeah. Look, I think it comes down to, again, I said, what's your goal here? I mean, if your goal here is to actually keep sick people out, then yeah, this goes way beyond COVID, especially with flu season getting ready to come up. So you're going to get what you pay for. And I agree, these $200 devices and even the $2,000 device, if you set this thing up inside of a very controlled room, controlled environment, yes, it probably works. But where's that at? Where's there not different flows of air coming in from different rooms as you open doors and people moving in and out of it? That just doesn't exist. So if you're saying, look, I want to make sure I have the right temperature and I'm going to do my best to where I can stand up in a court of law and say, look, we did everything we possibly could to make sure we're accurately testing people, those devices just won't work. We've proved that they won't work. The society has proven that they're not working. So now it becomes, what do? Do you just keep saying, hey, we're going to keep doing the little temperature guns here and we're going to roll a dice that no one gets sick and we can maybe somehow get lucky and no one sues us? Or are you going to look at advanced options and technologies like we're talking about with our stuff? Yeah, you're going to pay for it, but what's that going to cost you versus what a lawsuit is going to cost you if that's truly your objective? We hear stories every day about the lawsuits that are mounting up left and right from people saying, hey, you're not doing anything to protect your building. And yeah, you're using these little devices, but I'll put 100 experts on a stand that'll tell you, one, is the device working? Where'd you buy the device? Is it properly, calibrated? Now I want to also talk about the quality of the people that are operating them. Have they been trained on how to operate it? How can you prove they actually had it an inch from the head and not 3 inches from the head? I mean, all of that comes up in these situations. I almost thought that it's easier to say, we're not going to do any testing. We're just going to say, look, enter at your own risk. We're sign a document saying, hey, we're exemplifying you from any kind of indemnifying you from any kind of charges here. But when you start doing this, now you're taking the responsibility. Hey, I'm protecting my people. Well, are you really protecting them? Well, things like this that we know that don't work. So it's a sticky subject, and I think a lot of it comes where most people aren't aware of what exists out there. So they just need to be educated so they can make the right decisions.
I agree. And by the way, let's mention schools. We've mentioned a couple of times, and I'm here in Iowa, and the governor is not doing, in my opinion, what she should be doing, but that's political. Let's talk about getting kids back to school and education. It's not just the children, it's the teachers that are worried as well. Now, if we've got this front line where we know the kids that are coming in are not showing a temperature increase, we now know that we've done our job. Now, bear in mind, some people, and it's stated, but they're now changing it as well, don't show any temperature if they're asymptomatic. Once upon a time, it was a high number. Now it's down low. So we know we're getting the majority of people. The point is that if we can know who's coming into the building, because we can't just give unfettered access, we've got to know the health of people coming in. Otherwise, you're just letting, as I said earlier, the fox in the hen house. And bear in mind, one of the aspects we have is that we understand buildings. We understand smart buildings by the work we do in Europe, and we've got buildings that are the smartest in the world. They are the benchmark. And we've got to use technology. You can't just have a person standing there pointing a gun, because you and I know, Casey, we as human beings, we mess up all the time. I mean, that's part of our middle name, is mess up. And I don't think this is something we should mess up with. We've got to take it radically seriously.
Well, I think this has opened a lot of people's eyes up to many different things, is that, if you have a facility, we're on schools, and getting the kids in is one thing in the morning. What about visitors coming into the school? What about, let's say once we're past this COVID stuff, what about sporting events? basketball games, football games, all that, where you got crowds and stands. Why are we just assuming everyone's healthy and we're just letting people flow? Now, you may say, well, in the past, it's really impractical for have staff there sitting there scanning everybody and going through this for every event. I get that, and that's a reasonable argument. But when you can take a little camera like this, set it up, and you've got a system like this, you can't see it on here, where you can set this thing up portably at gates, at entrances, and have people walking in, basically through single doors anyway, it running. Why wouldn't you take that precaution? Why wouldn't you say, all right, if someone's coming in with the flu, I'd love to know that I'm sitting in the stands and I'm in the concession line next to someone that passed through a scanner, and I know that they don't have the flu or they have a virus. To me, that goes to the true duty of care, where we can say, all right, past COVID, we're doing things as a facility to ensure that the people that enter our property are safe and protected from outside people that are coming in. To me, it just makes rational sense. The argument is, okay, how can we do that efficiently and effective where we don't disrupt the entire operations? These things aren't a solution, but the stuff that we're looking at and we offering through our thermal cameras definitely is.
Well, some of our expertise, if I may, 2003, we go all the way back, and our involvement within the company, folks that with the SARS and also the Ebola virus. And remember, the Ebola virus was killing thousands of people in Africa, and people were just flying around and they had it and they were transmitting it. And now they put in cameras to know that elevated temperature. And still today, we on a global basis are making changes, because temperature is the most important thing. It shows the radical change. I mean, listen to your mother. What did your mother do when you said, oh, I don't feel great, I don't want to go to school? First thing she did is she got the thermometer and she double checked, or she checked your temperature forehead, and that was skin back then, of course, that she felt that you were just telling, lies, and you just wanted to get out of school. But she always checked your temperature. And of course, it was the glass thermometer, in my case, going into the mouth and reading your temperature. And I can assure you, mothers are right. They know their kids, they know about temperatures, and that's the first thing they go to.
Yeah. And we also understand and been very clear that we don't think there's a perfect system out there, and ours isn't perfect either. But I don't think anyone expects perfection. I think that the expectation is that, okay, are you doing everything in your power to protect the people that come onto your property? And if you can sit there and say, look, we understand that, some people, COVID, are asymptomatic. They're not going to have a fever. Well, there's nothing you're going to do about that, with them coming into a place other than say, all right, in these times you're going to have a mask on, that sort of stuff. You're going to social distance. But, I don't see that being a permanent part of our society. Some may make the decision to always wear a mask, but I don't see 300 plus million people running around our country wearing masks every single day, all day long. So at some point we're going to get past this, but we know that everyone that's infected with the flu has a temperature. The flu kills more people a year than the coronavirus does. So it's like, okay, why aren't we taking steps looking past corona to say, okay, now we're going to start protecting from all viruses, and we're going to put a system in place that's going to protect the people that are here, to where we know, okay, anyone entering has been scanned, and to the best of our ability, we know that they're safe. Because that's what, we talk a lot about duty of care, right? Duty of care translates to, what's going to happen when you end up in a courtroom. And if you can show that, yeah, look, people came into my restaurant, I've got a solution at the door, it's monitoring everybody's temperature, it's calibrated on a frequent basis, we know the temperatures are right. Hey, no one entered this place that we saw that had a temperature. okay, you can make that argument. You're doing everything in your power and duty of care to protect people. And it's with that type of technology, it's hard for an attorney to argue that you're not. But when you have these things, or you're not testing anybody once COVID goes away, how do you make that case now that you're protecting the people in your facility? I mean, you can make the argument you enter at your own risk, but is that your defense? I mean, I think people, when I know I go into a restaurant, I make the assumption that I'm entering a safe environment. The owners of the restaurant are doing everything they can to protect it. Now, I also know reality that they're not. But, you know, why shouldn't we? If we're a business, why wouldn't we be doing this to say, look, we're protecting the people? Forget the legal protections, just about we want to protect the people that come into our buildings.
Yeah. Yesterday was interesting. It was brought to our attention regarding transportation. And for instance, the London bus service is running right now at 20%. They can't make money. They can't keep going. So they now are looking at our system to literally go on the bus. So as they step up into the bus, their temperature's being taken, and they know that that person's okay because they want to increase their ridership. It'll be the same thing for trains. It can be the same thing at the airport. We know what we can do at the airport. We know that prior to getting to TSA, your temperature can be scanned and you're either in line or you're out of line because somebody's going to say, excuse me, you've got a raised temperature. We need to double check you. And that's what that will happen. They will double check somebody. It's not the be all and end all. It's not the judge and jury. It's just that we've got information that you do have under our system a raised temperature. So now we need to double check you.
Yeah. And, you know, and that was a great conversation that we had, is that, you know, why wait till everyone's on top of each other to check temperatures? You know, do it outside or in a confined environment where, you know, let's just take the airport where, yeah, you can social distance until you get through the front entrances. And as you get through, you check, you don't have a temperature. Now you go about your business, but you're checked prior to you're in a group of people. You know, we're talking about stadiums, you know, different concert venues, all these different things that are trying to get back into business here. Well, I know if I walk through a system like we have, and I know everyone else is walking through and they've been checked, I feel pretty good about sitting next to people. Like I can live with that. But if you're not testing anybody, all right, I got concerns of whether or not I'm going to spend my money and go back to an event, you know, right now with it. So I think that from that perspective, this is a logical solution for people to say, look, we're doing everything we can with causing minimal disruption to our flow of traffic.
It's the front door and the back door and filtering people in and knowing their health condition. That's vitally important because that's a line of defense you've got to have. You know, we go back to duty of care. It makes common sense. It's logical. And certainly, I think what we'd like to do right now is let's tap on the end of this podcast some information that people can take a look at. But Casey, thanks very much indeed. I think, you know, our conversations, we never prep. We just know our business and we're very transparent and we know what the heck we're doing. Look, 2003, that's a lot of years ago, and there's a lot of expertise that we have in our organization. And I think it's vital that we start using common sense to know who is coming through our front door. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And on the last note for me, it's, you know, you and I live this every day. So, I mean, we're with experts, we're with scientists, we're with, you know, the technology experts where we get it. And, you know, sometimes we forget that everyone on the outside really don't have that access to the data and stuff that we have. So I think it's important to educate people and let them know what's really going on, and so they can look at it and then make their own decision and being an educated decision. So I appreciate it, Bud, and it's another great talk.
I will. And last thing, since March, we've learned a hell of a lot about COVID, and we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we will continue to make those inroads because we are innovators. We absolutely want to make sure that we bring to everybody the ability. And look, we present it, you can listen, you can learn, and then you can act. I appreciate it very much. Thanks.
Thanks.
Entrical, a high-level security company working with global law enforcement and corporate security, has decades of experience in detecting core temperature change. For 17 years, the involvement in two of the previous worst deadly infectious concerns, Ebola and SARS. Temperature scanning those entering locations such as airports, hospitals and businesses continues in the success in saving lives by the isolation of those with a raised temperature. No, not with those handheld or wall-mounted digital temperature scanners. They are not reliable and certainly do not securely produce the correct temperature of an individual. Checking the temperature via the forehead or the wrist is not conducive to knowing the core temperature of the body. Those devices have no comparison of the humidity or temperature in the environment location. The person using the digital thermometer is inconsistent in the checking, becomes inefficient quickly, and lo and behold, the batteries drain fast, giving false readings of those checked. Entrical's auto-body temperature scanning camera solution is the benchmark in public temperature detection for COVID-19 and virus security. Created and designed in the USA, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Urbandale, Iowa, and London. Manufactured in both the USA and UK. How you take the measurement impacts the accuracy of the system. Studies show the best correlation of core body temperature is measuring the temperature of the inner corner of the eye, the canthus or the tear duct. Entrical Eye's frontline elevated auto-body temperature thermal radiometric cameras measure the canthus, the tear duct, which is the most stable relative core temperature externally. For accurate EBT applications, a black body is necessary. The black body instrument is a calibration device. It calibrates every second to ensure the accuracy of the device and readings. A black body device is required as it provides a constant reference temperature to assure accurate temperature monitoring during continuous operation. It is also essential that the person faces the camera straight on and removes any facial or headgear such as glasses, hat, hair, or anything else that obscures the eye area. Keeping the eye area free from accessories is important because the inner canthus is the most accurate way of measuring a person's internal body temperature.